Today's mindful moment. Ever feel like maybe home isn't really a place, more like a feeling that maybe we lose touch with over time? You all shared John Steinbeck's Travels with Charley with us about his journey rediscovering America back in the early 1960s. And, it's amazing how relevant his observations still feel today, even now, right? So yeah, let's buckle up. We're going to hit the road and try to pull out some real gems of insight from Steinbeck's trip.
You know what makes this deep dive so interesting? Steinbeck wasn't on just a typical book tour or anything. He really craved authenticity. So he traveled incognito. He had this custom camper built right on his truck, and he even named it Rocinante, like Don Quixote's horse.
It's like he knew, being John Steinbeck, that would just totally distort the view of America that he wanted to see.
Exactly, yeah. He wanted to really connect with everyday people, observe this nation, changing so rapidly, but without that filter of fame. And one of the things that just struck him most of all was how fast the American landscape was transforming.
Yeah, he talks about how much had changed in just 25 years, like urban sprawl and all these superhighways popping up. It's almost like he's kind of like mourning this simpler America that's fading away.
He even describes his own hometown, Salinas, California. It was this peaceful agricultural valley, and it had become just this sprawling suburb. Think about it, one of his favorite spots, bulldozed, gone, just to make way for a TV relay station. It's a story that a lot of us can relate to, right? That feeling like a personal landmark just disappears, in the name of progress.
Definitely is. It's bittersweet, and then there's this like fascination he has with mobile home parks. Seems like it's like a quirky little detail, but I think it actually reveals a lot about American society back then.
It really does. Steinbeck saw these parks as like this microcosm of restless energy, this constant search for something better that's just so like built into the American spirit. He describes this great encounter where he shared a meal with this family, living in a mobile home park. Dad was a mechanic, kids took the school bus. Just a snapshot of ordinary people carving out their own version of the American dream in this new mobile world.
And this is where I think it gets really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
He noticed that even though these homes were designed to be mobile, people often stayed put for years and years, creating their own sense of community, a sense of permanence in these, seemingly temporary places.
Right. Like, it challenges our assumptions about what roots really mean, doesn't it? Is it about a physical location, or is it more about the connections we make, the sense of belonging wherever we happen to be?
It's like he's saying maybe we're all just looking for our own version of home, and it doesn't matter if it's a house, a mobile home, or even just like a state of mind.
And that search, for home, it takes on this even deeper meaning when you think about Steinbeck's own situation. He was recovering from an illness, grappling with his own mortality at the time. So this whole journey, it wasn't just about rediscovering America. It was about rediscovering himself.
Wow. Yeah, it adds a whole new layer to his observations, doesn't it? It's like he's trying to figure out his place in a world that's changing so fast.
Yeah.
While also coming to terms with the fact that, life is finite.
Exactly. And that brings us to another one of his, interesting observations, the power of the hairdresser. He argues that hairdressers have this unique influence in society. They're confidants, they're keepers of secrets, and they offer advice in a way that, very few professions do.
Yeah. He even tells this funny story about staying in a cabin, and the son there, he was studying to be a hairdresser, much to his dad's, disapproval. And Steinbeck actually passionately defends the whole profession. He sees it as this essential thread in the whole fabric of human connection.
It just speaks to his ability to find meaning in the most unexpected places.
Sure.
It wasn't just grand landscapes, political movements, that kind of thing. He was fascinated by everyday interactions, these small moments that reveal so much about, the richness of human experience.
It's interesting how he connects those seemingly ordinary observations to these bigger trends. For example, his travels, they took place during a pretty pivotal moment in American history, early 1960s, with the civil rights movement really gaining steam.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't shy away from the ugliness of that racial divide, the anger, the fear on both sides.
One of the most, the most poignant examples is his description of this just horrifying scene in New Orleans, where white mothers are screaming abuse at this little black girl trying to integrate a school. It's a stark reminder of how deep, how prevalent racism was at the time. And sadly, it continues to echo in various forms, even today.
It is sobering. It makes you realize that even with all the progress we've made, we're still struggling with some of the same issues Steinbeck saw back then. Makes you wonder, are we really that different now than we were 60 years ago?
That's a really important question, and it's one that Steinbeck wrestles with throughout his whole journey. He doesn't offer easy answers, but he definitely challenges us, to confront these uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our society.
Yeah. But even with all the turmoil, all the social upheaval, he still finds hope. He's just captivated by this traveling actor performing Shakespeare for these small town audiences. He sees this living theater as this testament to the power of storytelling, even in a world, increasingly dominated by technology.
He even suggests that this direct connection between the performer and the audience, that this shared experience will outlast all other forms of entertainment. It's a fascinating prediction, especially when you consider just the explosion of digital media we've seen in recent decades.
Think about it. We have streaming services, podcasts, AI narration channels like Mindful Moments on YouTube. They analyze classic audiobooks. And yet, you know what? Live theater, concerts, even stand-up comedy, they're all still thriving. Maybe Steinbeck was onto something about that enduring power of human connection, the need to experience stories together, in real time.
It's a reminder that technology, yeah, it can enhance our lives, but it can't replace that fundamental human need for connection and that shared experience.
And speaking of diverse experiences, Steinbeck's journey took him to Texas, a state that he found just utterly unique, this blend of tradition and ambition, where even the wealthiest businessmen cling to this image of the country boy. He describes just this hilarious Thanksgiving feast on a Texas ranch, this display of understated opulence that's really revealing about the Texan psyche.
It's like he's saying that underneath all that bravado, all the swagger, there's this deep connection to the land, this pride in their heritage that sticks around even as the state modernizes.
But maybe the most universal theme running through the whole book is Steinbeck's own struggle to reconcile the home in his memory with the reality he finds. He has this incredibly powerful quote. He says, "You can't go home again because home has ceased to exist except in the mothballs of memory."
It's heartbreaking, but it's so relatable, isn't it? We all have these idealized versions of the past, but sometimes confronting the present, it can be jarring. It's like he's saying that home, maybe it's more a feeling than a place, a feeling that inevitably changes as we do.
And that change, it can be both beautiful and painful.
Exactly. It's about embracing the complexity of life, recognizing that, yeah, things change, but those memories and experiences, they shape who we are. They shape how we see the world. And that, I think, is one of the most valuable things we can take away from Travels with Charley.
It's really fascinating how those observations from back in the 60s, how they still resonate with us today. Think about his reflections on that whole mobile home phenomenon. It really struck me. He saw those homes, as symbols of freedom, but also impermanence, kind of mirroring that uniquely American restlessness, right?
It's amazing how he ties these individual stores into these larger social trends. Yeah, you're right. That theme of restlessness, it feels even more relevant now, today. Look at the rise of the digital nomad. People working remotely, traveling all the time, living in vans, RVs, even boats. It's like this modern day echo of those mobile home dwellers that Steinbeck was talking about. They're all searching for something, for a different way of life maybe. Not bound by just one place. Makes you wonder, is this constant movement? Is it a particularly American thing? Or is it more universal, part of, being human, that desire to explore, to change?
That is a good question, and it connects to that tension Steinbeck keeps exploring in the book, that pull between wanting to settle down, have roots, and also craving new experiences, wanting stability but also freedom all at the same time.
He seemed to really wrestle with that, throughout his trip, trying to find a way to reconcile that comfort of what's familiar with that, I don't know, allure of the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. He's saying that maybe the key to a good life, a fulfilling life, is finding that balance, that sweet spot between staying put and hitting the road. And speaking of hitting the road, Steinbeck had some pretty interesting encounters with people, all kinds of people, during his travels, right?
He did. And it's really something? Even in these super brief interactions, he had this knack for connecting with people, drawing out their stories, and then finding, I don't know, those universal threads that connect us all.
Yeah, like that waitress he talks about, the
Yeah.
one who seemed just so drained, just no energy, no joy. It's a small detail, but it really stuck with me.
It's interesting how he picks up on that subtle negativity, that almost contagious exhaustion, almost like he's saying that the energy we carry, whether it's positive or negative, it impacts those around us.
We've all met those people, right? The ones that just, leave you feeling drained. And then, of course, there's the opposite. Those who just radiate this warmth and, enthusiasm. They leave you feeling energized, inspired. Makes you think about, I don't know, what kind of energy you're putting out there into the world, right?
Absolutely. It's a good reminder to be mindful, mindful of our impact, how our words, our actions, they might affect the people around us. But, beyond those individual encounters, Steinbeck was also paying attention to the bigger picture, the social and political landscape of America in the 60s.
Oh, right. That was a time of huge change, so much upheaval. The civil rights movement challenging the very fabric of American society, forcing everyone to really confront these deep inequalities. And Steinbeck, he doesn't avoid those tough conversations. He sees the courage of those fighting for equality, but also the ugliness of racism, the resistance to change.
His account of witnessing those white mothers screaming at that little black girl trying to go to school, it's so jarring, really a stark reminder of how deeply prejudice can be embedded and how much work there's still left to do to dismantle those systems. It's heartbreaking to realize how much those themes, how much they still resonate today. We may have made progress, but we're obviously still grappling with racial justice, with equality. Makes you wonder if those divisions, if they'll ever truly heal.
It's a complex question. And yeah, one that doesn't have easy answers, but I think what Steinbeck does, his willingness to confront those uncomfortable truths, to acknowledge that darkness alongside the hope, it's an important reminder for all of us.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that complexity, of the human experience, the good and the bad, the progress and the setbacks. And in the middle of all that turmoil, you know what? Steinbeck also finds these moments of beauty, inspiration, those little glimpses of human resilience that give us hope.
He does. Like that time he met that traveling actor performing Shakespeare for those small town audiences.
Yeah.
He was so drawn to that power of live performance.
Yeah.
The direct connection between the storyteller and the listener. He even predicts that live storytelling, it's going to outlast all other forms of entertainment. Pretty bold statement, considering all the technological advancements we've seen since then.
But think about it. Even with all the streaming services, on-demand content, there's just something powerful, undeniable about experiencing a story live, in the moment, with everyone.
It's that shared energy, that feeling of being part of something together. You just can't get that through a screen.
Yep.
It's like we crave those moments of connection. Those shared moments of laughter or tears or reflection even.
Exactly. And Steinbeck, he seems to suggest that those moments, those connections we forge through stories, they're essential. They help us understand ourselves, understand the world.
So it's not just entertainment, right? It's about empathy, understanding, finding meaning in being human. And Steinbeck's journey took him through such diverse landscapes, allowing him to really explore, the full spectrum of that experience.
Yeah. He was really captivated by the Badlands, that stark beauty. He describes it so vividly. He calls it a place filled with foreboding, this landscape that doesn't like or welcome humans. It's almost like he's hesitant to even write about it, as if the experience was, I don't know, too powerful, too unsettling to really put into words.
It's interesting how some places can evoke such a strong reaction, such visceral reaction. Some landscapes, they feel welcoming, peaceful, like you belong. Others, they feel alien, forbidding. They challenge, I don't know, our whole idea of where we fit in the world.
And Steinbeck, he definitely felt that challenge in the Badlands. He saw it as this place where, nature's power was just on full display, a reminder of how vulnerable we are and the forces that shape our lives.
Yet even there, even in that harsh environment, he still finds beauty, this sense of awe in the face of, I don't know, nature's raw power. It's a good reminder that even in the most desolate places, there's still something to be learned, something to appreciate.
And maybe that's one of the key things we can take away from Travels with Charley, that renewed sense of wonder, of the diversity of the world, the complexity of it all.
And a reminder that the journey itself, with all the unexpected turns it takes, it's just as important as the destination. It's about embracing the unknown, being open to those new experiences,
Right.
letting them shape who we are.
Yeah.
As we've been talking about, Steinbeck wasn't just on this road trip across America. It was also this journey of self-discovery. Like, remember, he was recovering from an illness, facing his own mortality. It really adds another dimension to his observations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. He's not just, looking out at the changing landscape. He's looking inward, too, wrestling with time, with his place in it all.
Right, right. And along the way, he has these moments of, I don't know, just real insight that reveal a lot about his own growth. Like that experience he describes in the Vermont church with that fire and brimstone preacher. That part just fascinated me.
It is kind of an unexpected moment, isn't it? You have Steinbeck, this celebrated author, finding solace in this incredibly intense sermon. It does make you rethink some assumptions about him.
It does. It's like he's looking for something deeper than just, intellectual stuff. He's yearning for some kind of meaning, a spiritual connection, maybe.
And he contrasts that experience with what he calls the modern approach to sin and redemption, where, everything is just an accident or the result of like outside forces. He seems to crave a more, a more direct way of confronting his flaws, that sense of personal responsibility that maybe we're missing a bit today.
Like he needs that good old-fashioned guilt to like shake him up a bit, get him out of his comfort zone. And I get that we live in a world where it's so easy to, I don't know, deflect blame, avoid taking responsibility for messing up. But maybe there's something to be said for facing our imperfections, head on.
I think so. It's about owning our actions, right? And finding a way to live with integrity, even when it's tough. And that brings us to, I think, one of the most poignant parts of the book, Steinbeck going back to Salinas, his hometown. It's full of this sense of recognizing things, but also loss.
He realizes that while he's been on this incredible journey, both, physically and emotionally, his hometown, it's been changing too.
Yeah.
Evolving in ways he hadn't, expected.
And that's how time works, isn't it? It just keeps going, regardless of what we're doing. Those places that we hold on to in our memories, they might not match up with what we find when we go back.
He even says, what I'm about to tell, he says, must be the experience of so many in this nation where so many wander and come back. That line, man, it really got to me. Anyone who's ever gone back to a place they used to call home, they get it. That bittersweet feeling, familiar yet different.
Yeah, it's that realization that even the best memories, they can fade, that the past is, well, it's gone, but it doesn't mean those memories don't matter. They shape us. They become part of who we are. They inform how we see the world.
And maybe that's the real takeaway from Travels with Charley. It's not just about his trip back in the 60s. It's about, I don't know, something more universal, about change, about loss, about searching for what matters.
It's about embracing the complexities of life, recognizing that things change, but it's the experiences we have, the stories we gather, those become like the threads that weave together the tapestry of our lives.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here into Travels with Charley, what's the one thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Embrace the journey, even when it's, uncertain, even when it's uncomfortable, because it's in those moments when we're exploring, when we encounter something unexpected, that's when we truly discover, who we are and what we value. And who knows, maybe you'll even find a new way of understanding that whole idea of home.
I love that. Beautifully put. For our listeners who want to really dive into Travels with Charley, we've got a link in the show notes where you can buy the book. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to the deep dive for more, for more fascinating journeys into the world of knowledge. Share this episode with a friend, someone who might be feeling a little lost, a little restless. Maybe Steinbeck's words will resonate with them too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.